Good evening. We want to welcome our viewers of the Johnson City Government Information Channel on Charter Cable Channel 192 and Comcast Cable Channel 17 to this live telecast of the February 14th, 2017 Johnson City Regional Planning Commission meeting. This meeting will be rebroadcast on Friday, February the 17th at 12 p.m. noon. Thank you for joining us. We'd like to go ahead and call the meeting to order and call the roll, please.
Commissioner Lowe?
Yes.
Commissioner Rohde?
Here.
Commissioner Cooper?
Here.
Commissioner Benedict?
Here.
Commissioner Henning?
Here.
Commissioner Sandos?
Here.
Chairman Zients?
Here, thank you. And I want to take a moment to welcome Sonny Sandos as our newest member to the commission. Glad to have you. It's our first meeting with us. Let's go ahead and start with our invocation and our pledge by Commissioner Rohde.
Okay, thank you. Let us pray. Carl Sagan once wrote, "For small creatures such as we, the vastness is bearable only through love." There is in a political and planning process much to bear. In this room, let us cherish and celebrate our shared humanness, our shared capacity for reason and compassion, our shared love for the people in our city, for our Constitution, and for our democracy. Let us root our policy-making process in these values that are relevant to us in working together for a better Johnson City. Amen.
Amen.
Please face the flag for the pledge. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion for approval or any changes?
So moved.
Move in a second.
Second.
We have a motion for approval in a second. Everybody in favor for approval of the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
So passed. Next will be approval of the minutes from the January 10th, 2017 meeting. We have a movement for approval or any additions or revisions.
So moved.
Move. Second. And a second. All in favor for approval of the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. We have, as it currently stands, no unfinished business to discuss, so we will move on to our new business tonight. And the first order of our new business will be to consider rezoning a portion of a property located at 2720 Watauga Road from R2 to B4. Thank you, Matt.
Yes, this is the rezoning request number 1018, as you said, for a 2720 Watauga Road to rezone from R2 low density to B4 planned arterial business. Currently, the property, as you can see up here, does have a business on it. It was annexed that way, but when the city did annex it, we annexed it as R2, not commercially zoned. The petitioner proposes placing a shopping center on that site. Currently, the Johnson City Land Use Plan designates this area suitable for residential uses. For that reason, staff recommends denial of this request.
Matt, can you tell me a little bit about what you know about the zoning and the land use plan south of Watauga Road there?
Yes, the land use plan calls out for that area to generally be either residential or industrial use. You can see Kennemetals out there right now, which kind of fills the industrial component. But when the land use plan was developed, they envisioned this area as being solely manufacturing or residential. But down along the south side there of Watauga, all through there is proposed to be industrial property.
Industrial there, okay. So a bit of a transition zone.
It is a transition zone, yes.
Okay.
There's no stormwater shown on the concept plan. I'm assuming that engineering will require that.
Yes, they will. Yeah.
Thank you. Do we have any further questions for staff? Thank you very much. Do we have anybody here wishing to speak for or against this rezoning request?
I'm here on behalf of the owner of the property.
Would you please go ahead and come to the podium?
I'm sorry.
Thank you for the opportunity to do this. I'm Gene Laws. I'm one of the elders and trustees of Linwood Christian Church. You see the little box off to the right-hand side of the screen there? That is our church.
Across the street.
Right, across the street.
And
We're
again, your
located
name,
in
if
the
I can
county.
one thing when we have you come up to speak, if you don't mind giving your name into the microphone.
Eugene Laws,
Eugene Laws.
L-A-W-S.
Thank you, Mr. Laws. And your address?
My home address is 607 Claremont Road.
Okay, thank you very
Johnson
much.
City. Yes.
Okay, yeah, proceed. I'm sorry. Thank you for the interruption.
And as I stated, I'm one of the elders and the trustees of the church, and I guess our concern deals with the alcoholic beverage sale. That is going to be located almost directly across from the front entrance to the church, and I don't know what the zoning will pertain to that particular area. And the other thing, we have some safety concerns and issues. I don't really have a big objection to improving that property, but based on what's located on it now. It's has a tree trimming service and a lot of surplus vehicles and things like that, but we're just concerned that with the safety, there's no sidewalks in that particular area, and my understanding from the meeting we had with the realtor yesterday, it's going to be a Dollar General store, I think, or something similar to that. There's no sidewalks on that particular road through there. It's heavily traveled with a lot of Class 3 through Class 8 truck traffic. The city has their water sewer service down below it there, and all the plants are in there. It's a lot of 18-wheelers that travel that road, and it's a heavily traveled road anyway. And where they're proposing to erect that, it's going to be in a curve of the road. My concern is about the sight distance, the safety of people entering and exiting that, and my other concern is for water runoff. I don't know how the grade work will be on that site, but across the road there in the curve is, we get a lot of heavy rains, we get puddling of water in there, and it has been to the point that I've saw at least the northbound lane of that road blocked because of the water that gathers. Hopefully, will there be a situation or approval that they could improve the drainage there, and the building would be where the water would run off to the rear of the building and place across the street there. But our biggest concern as a congregation is the sale of alcoholic beverages, and it would be a good thing for us if they could clean that side up. And the other thing is safety, because of foot traffic and the amount of traffic that's on the road, and the fact that that's entrance to that's going to be pretty well in the middle of the curve there. So,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you
your
very
time.
much. Do we have anybody else here wishing to speak for or against this rezoning request? Yes, sir.
Would you like to speak? You
Go ahead, me.
Okay.
Either one? And we'll get to you next, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Can you go ahead and give us your name and address? Yes, thank you.
Jonathan Forrester, 196 Montgomery Street, Johnson City, Tennessee. And I am the broker involved. The owner is hard of hearing, so he asked me to participate on his behalf. I just want to state that I think their concerns are legitimate, but in the contract that we have, which we don't have a contract, we have an offer on the property. That's why we're rezoning this. The developer would like to put one in. There was not a contingency for alcoholic sales. Normally, I've done a lot of these. Normally, we see a contingency in there if they are going to sell alcoholic beverages. You know, that's part of the contract. It was not part of this contract, so I don't know whether they'll request that or whether they won't. And as far as, you know, in that curve, there's been a business there for 20, 30 plus years, his tree service. They go ingress and egress out of there currently, you know, every day. That's part of that tree service. And if you look at what is presently there, I believe a new development there would be much less of an eyesore than what's there already. And I believe it would serve the community. You know, of course, if the community warrants it. Now, there is not a engineering plan. This is a preliminary plan that we put in front of you. Of course, engineers would have to get involved, and the city would have to get involved for placement of where the ingress and egress would be. So I'm sure the engineers, you know, everyone will be involved if this moves forward. Of course, if it's denied, then, you know, it doesn't merit, of course. But I think this pretty much, you know, answers what they've said.
You asked for a B4 rather than a B3 zoning?
Well, we asked, when we came in, we actually asked for consult from the zoning department. As long as it fits a storefront, we're fine with the zoning, as long as it's a B zoning that a dollar store or type of store, can be there. Also, in the contract, it also states that, just for your information, that everything behind it will stay residential. They want everything behind it to stay residential. It's just the 2-acre tract that's currently being used commercially and has been for 20 years. It's just, it was grandfathered.
Right.
So really, there's no difference. It's just we're cleaning it up, making it look nice, and having a new development, new tax revenue.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
May I take, we'll go ahead and, any further comments for or against? Yes, sir.
I just want to ask a question to you, sir. I'm sure my guest.
If you don't mind approaching the podium, we can hear you. We'd love to hear from you. If you can just give us your name, please.
My name is Donald Stein, 3705 Woodcrest Drive, Johnson City, Tennessee. I own the adjacent property, which you got there, R2 on. I own 2 lots there, and I'm concerned what effect that would have on the value of my lots if you remain them zone R2 and zone the adjacent property business. And I'm also concerned about drainage, because there is a lot of water in that area, and they've already filled in there and got water running over on my lots already, where they filled in years ago, because they filled that in higher than my land, and you have got a drainage problem there already. And I'd want to make sure if they build something on there, that to be proper storm surge, keep the water off my lot. And it's also, it don't show it, there's high voltage wire transmission lines right down on the property line there at R2 and the site you want to rezone, which you've got to stay within, can't be within 50 feet, part of the building, within 50 feet on either side of that high voltage line. And of course, back in the lower part, you've got the main sewer line coming down a solid, storm, I mean, not a solid, storm, your sewage in the alley coming down that lower part down there.
Okay, so just to be clear, I heard a number of concerns that you have for things that you'd like to see done if it were rezoned or developed in the future. Are you particularly for or against the rezoning?
Well, really, if it don't affect the value of my property, it don't matter. But if it's going to devalue my property, and that's what I'm concerned, I would be against it.
I understand. I'm not sure if that's something that we can answer here, but I appreciate your concerns. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Is anybody here else that would others speak for or against? Seeing none, we'll close the public comment portion of the hearing. And Matt, may we ask you some questions?
Sure.
Great. You look like you were jumping up there. Did you have anything you wanted to tell us after listening, or?
Oh, well, as far as the neighbors' concerns about water, runoff, and whatnot, we would catch that at plans review phase. We wouldn't allow anybody to discharge extra water off into a adjoining property. They would have to retain that and hold on to it and clean it, actually. So I don't think you're going to have the issue of the water coming across any more onto the adjacent property owner's land, just to address that.
Thank you. Tell me about the difference between maybe a B3 versus a B4 zoning here in sale of alcohol. Is it the B4 is the only one that allows that, or is the B3 as well?
No, B3 would allow it too.
Okay.
Currently, B5 is the only, and B5 only limits liquor stores. You
That's
can still
right.
serve beer, sell beer there out of it. We don't have one that limits beer sales. We let our distance requirement from church, synagogues, parks, things like that usually take care of those kinds of issues. Currently, we have you have to be 100 feet away from the front door of a church, park, playground, things like that, in order to sell beer.
Is that to the property line, 100 feet, or is that
door to door?
to the door? to
Yeah,
the door?
front door to front door.
That
So-
church sits back quite a bit.
It does. And so to be careful and clear, what we're here to discuss tonight is not whether or not a Dollar General, whatever be proposed, would be there as appropriate. We have to discuss the zoning and whatever could or could not show up there with, as a part of that zoning.
I'm going off of memory, but I think that the beer distance measurement is from the front door of the establishment to the nearest entrance exit of the building that you're talking about. We have had some side doors and some things that weren't really the front door, and on some churches, it's hard to tell what the front door is because they have maybe 2 or 3 main entrances. Just wanted to make that.
Thank you very much.
As far as the difference between B3 and B4, B3 is supporting Central Business District, and so it just wouldn't be typical for us to have a B3 all the way out here. That's why we went with B4 rather than anything else.
Thank you. Any further questions for staff? We're open for discussion, considerations of motions.
I see 2 issues. One, I see it's just not consistent with the land use plan. And 2, and it's probably not a big deal, but it cuts off, basically isolates that rear R2 property there in the back, which may or may not be an issue. I just think it's not, my main concern is it's not consistent with the land use plan.
In looking at the land use plan, it's clear that across the street, the southern side of Watauga is industrial, that this area has been grandfathered into its use with a plan for that to be residential, and we tend to gravitate towards hard stops when we delineate and make lines. It's not uncommon to see across the street a change as you make a transition. However, it is a transition zone in some ways. So I think that's a good point and to be taken into consideration.
It is, however, a transition area.
It is.
And although I certainly respect what you're saying, there's a variety of different things up and down there right now, and it's been a business for 20-plus years. There's testimony, for lack of a better word, to that effect. And to that gentleman's point about the value of his property, I think it might actually improve the value of his property, considering that what would go in may be more attractive than what's there now. So in my view, considering the sort of mixed use of the area, even though it's inconsistent with the use plan, it seems to me to be appropriate. That's my 2 cents.
I wanted a quick clarification from staff. It looks like the concept plan shows the high power line easement lines, but doesn't show the yellow zone to the left, to the west there. Is that part of the site too, and would it be, is it excluded or is it part of it? Is that not part of the property?
The entire property actually goes up. It's the R2 in the back and the highlighted, but that hard line on your left, that is actually, the property does not go through there.
That's a zoning line.
That's a
though.
zoning line, but that's also a property line.
It is also a property
Yes.
line? So there is a separate parcel to the left of that property?
Correct.
Okay.
So those power lines actually go across the corner of this proposed
Oh,
site.
yes, definitely. They'll have to put parking in there.
What, is the 50-foot that the gentleman, Mr. Stein, mentioned, is that,
It's 100 foot, I think, 50 on each with a high
Right.
power.
But you are allowed to park there, so you can put your parking in that area. You just
can't put a
can't
building
build a structure there.
so, okay. Does this concept plan meet that criteria?
Yeah, if that's the,
It meets our criteria for a concept plan. Now, later on, when we get into the actual construction plans and things like that, what we'll have to see a whole lot more detail on. I mean, you know, you'll have to show your stormwater and how you're going to collect it and all that. But right now, it meets what we need for a concept plan.
would engineering require a decel lane?
Yes, they will have to have a decel lane.
Okay.
That answers site distance issues.
Right.
Any further questions for staff or discussion? Call for a motion.
I move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion for approval and a second. Any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Lowe?
Yes.
Commissioner Rhodey?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper?
No.
Commissioner Benedict?
Yes.
Commissioner Henning?
No.
Commissioner Sandos?
Yes.
Chairman Zions?
Yes. Will give us the count, please.
That is 5 yes and 2 no.
Motion passes. Thank you very much. Move on to the next item on our agenda for tonight is the Planning Division is proposing amendments to the zoning map for the establishment of a newly adopted West Walnut Street district to be applied.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. These amendments will remove the urban commercial overlay district from the West Walnut Street corridor and replace the underlying zoning with the West Walnut Street district on properties that fall within the stated boundary. And that boundary is shown on the map within the highlighted blue area there. This was adopted by the City Commission on November 17th. The West Walnut Street district includes text that is intended to promote a compact urban corridor with a mixture of commercial, office, and residential uses that promotes bicycling and pedestrian mobility and supports the university, downtown, and supporting residential areas. We are recommending approval of these amendments to the zoning map to the City Commission.
Thank you. We have any questions for staff in regards to this zoning map and application of the WWD district? This would be recommending it to the City Commission for consideration and application, in which case it would go through 3 readings at the City
Yes, sir.
Commission level before it would become an ordinance. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Is anybody here wishing to speak for or against this change to the zoning map?
If you have any questions, I'm David LaFemin and served on the West Walnut Street Task Force, and Hal Hunter's here and Bob served, and no Joe Wise is under the weather tonight, but be glad to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Mr. LaFemme. Any questions? No. Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am. Would you like to speak? Yes, please.
I got a question. I learned a lot today.
My name is Catherine O'Leary. I live at 429 West Locust Street. I just have one question.
Yes, ma'am.
About a week ago, we had a nice meeting here, and we went over the plan, any residents who wanted to come, and Mr. Wise was here. And I just had one question, that on the north side, no coating is added, and on the south side, it's
I'm sorry, the what was added?
no coating is added on the north side or State of Franklin, but on the south side, it's 2 stories, which is a good idea. But I don't understand how come coating isn't added to the north side as part of the plan, so it can be aesthetically similar on both sides, or just to set a limit on what we want. And Mr. Wise explained to me that that wouldn't be necessary because right now land isn't that expensive, so there wouldn't be that much incentive to go high, but I think that could change. And he also said, well, the mill's very high, but that's historic and what the neighborhood wants, and it looks good, and do we want anything to compete with that? So would now be a good time to add to the coating on the north side so we can have aesthetically what we want.
And you say coding, when you say that, you mean limits on height?
That's it. Like, what do we want? 6, 10, 15, maybe now's the time to decide, the way it's decided on the south side, since it is one street.
Okay. Just want to make sure I
Yeah.
understood.
Yes.
Okay.
That was my only concern. Everything else looks great.
Is this an issue that was addressed?
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thought, I imagine.
The 2 sides of the street, the north and the southern side, they have different impacts. Obviously, the southern side is adjoining the Tree Street neighborhood. So in order not to have buildings towering over that neighborhood, we put a limit of 2 stories on those structures. On the north side, you've got lot depths that are anywhere from 300 to 400 feet deep, and we want to encourage a mixed-use concept so that you'll see commercial uses on the first floor, maybe have apartments and condos on 2nd, 3rd, 4th, maybe even as high as 5th floor. Same thing, by having the unlimited height on the north side, we've got the possibility of having parking garages that could have multiple stories as well.
I envision something like the Biltmore development on the other side of Asheville.
Right.
This type of a new development that encourages this combination of pedestrian, biking, walkway, commercial development, and residential development all at the same time.
What had happened, obviously, when State of Franklin Road went in, it became the conduit of the heavy traffic corridor to take traffic from the university and the med center to the downtown. So your vehicle count on West Walnut Street went down to about 7,000 vehicle trips a day, allowing us the opportunity to now look at redeveloping this area so that it can promote the pedestrian and the bike traffic, make it user-friendly and very walkable. So it's at a great transition time. You've seen a lot of the industry that was once there, it's changed, and Johnson City Foundry, obviously, that was a big industry on the front corner, which is now part of the university parking area. But what we're trying to do is keep the Walnut Street corridor as an urban core, have the urban front, which would marry the same look as the downtown. But the nice part about the north side of that street is that you can see all types of new redevelopment take place. You got double street frontage on State of Franklin and West Walnut Street. So buildings could even face each other as interior courtyards for design. So it's a great opportunity. We've always sort of been limited with our downtown area because we've got Main and Market Street and a few offshoots, and this is the opportunity to really see an urban core take off. So
Thank you.
we spent a lot of time and really tried to get through all the issues, but that was some of the reasoning behind limiting the stories on the southern side and leaving it unlimited on the north.
Thank you. Thank you for addressing that. Yes, sir. Please.
My name is Jim Powell, and my address is 205 Joe Hale Drive, Johnson City. And I've only been here for 6 weeks. I'm the new pastor of Christ Community Church that inhabits right there on Ash Street, the old Clanfield Railroad headquarters, from what I understand. And so I guess the question, one of the first items of business for me in serving at the church is recognizing the utility of that building. It's got multiple stories, obviously, and such. And so I guess the question that our building committee's asked me to convey is impact of use of space that's already inside the middle of that corridor that's being proposed. So as far as
You're grandfathered in for.
so it wouldn't matter. Okay, all right. And I think it's about the greatest thing I could have read in coming to town.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you for everybody who spoke. Do we have anybody else here? I don't see anybody else physically here, so we'll go ahead and close the public comment of this consideration for application of the map. And do we have any questions for staff?
Move for approval.
Move for approval in a second. Okay. Who was our second? There was 2 seconds. All right.
It doesn't matter.
Commissioner Rhodey.
Just anybody.
All right, go ahead and call the roll, please.
Commissioner Lowe? Yes. Commissioner Rhodey?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper?
Yes.
Commissioner Benedict?
Yes.
Commissioner Henning?
Yes.
Commissioner Sandos?
Yes.
And Chairman Zion.
Yes, and I want to take a moment to congratulate everybody who worked on the task force, including the commissioners here, Commissioner Cooper, Commissioner Weiss, the folks from the community who were all involved. This was an unwieldy project with a lot of different interests, and I think that this is an example of community leadership where people all came together with their voices and produced something that's really good for our city. So I think we're going to see good things out of this, and I'm really proud of it. Good job. Let's move on to our third item on the agenda, which will be a county rezoning request. And we don't have our county representative here tonight, so Mr. Young will be handling that for us. We have 3 requests together that essentially make up one, but they have to be handled administratively independently. So we'll start with the 793 Free Hill Road.
Yes, sir. Petitioner is requesting to rezone 793 Free Hill Road from R2 medium density residential to B3 general business district. Staff from the county recommend approval of this request.
Okay.
Do we continue with the other 2, or?
Why don't we present all 3 of them?
Okay.
But then we will debate each one independently, and that may help speed things up.
All right. The next 2 are the same. they're zoned the same R2 medium density residential, and they're also asking to go to B3 general business district. And those are for 2 pieces of property located along Kingsport Highway, tax map 31, Group A, parcel 15, and tax map 31, Group A, parcel 14.1. Staff recommends approval of all 3 of these rezonings.
Thank you very much. Well, let's go ahead and consider the first portion of this rezoning. Any question? Let's go ahead and, any questions for staff immediately? No? Anybody here wishing to speak for or against this rezoning? For that matter, any of these rezonings? Okay. Then we're ready for discussion on at least the first one, the 793 Free Hill Road, rezoning from an R2 medium density to B3 general business.
I move we approve it.
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, go ahead and please call the roll.
Commissioner Lowe?
Yes.
Commissioner Rhodey?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper?
Yes.
Commissioner Benedict?
Yes.
Commissioner Henning?
Yes.
Commissioner Sandos?
Yes.
And Chairman Zion.
Yes. Let's move on to the consideration then for the item number 4 on the agenda. Again, from R2 to B3. Parcel 015. Tax map 0131.
Yeah, I move we approve it.
Thank you. I just have to do it. It's second again?
Second.
Got it?
Pull the
Call the
string.
roll.
Okay. Commissioner Lowe?
Yes.
Commissioner Rhodey?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper?
Yes.
Commissioner Benedict?
Yes.
Commissioner Henning?
Yes.
Commissioner Sandos?
Yes.
And Chairman Zion.
Thank you, yes. And the last item, which is complete this group, we need,
I move we approve it.
we have another approval.
That's fast. That's new.
Approval in the second, go
He
ahead.
must be having to go to some
Commissioner
party.
Lowe?
Yes.
Commissioner Rhodey?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper?
Yes.
Commissioner Benedict?
Yes.
Commissioner Henning?
Yes.
Commissioner Sandos?
Yes.
And Chairman Zion.
Yes, thank you. Item number 6 on the agenda is to consider a recommendation to endorse the hiring of a firm to develop a master plan/construction documents to develop infrastructure planning and streetscaping for the West Walnut Street area.
Yes. This was a recommendation from the task force. We'd like to have the planning commission's support sending this to the city commission just for a well-planned approach to this project. I think it will assist overall with the budgeting and the preparations and just the strategic approach overall to the redevelopment of this corridor.
Can you enumerate the specific kinds of things that they would be?
Sure. Things would be
What can I-
involved that we would like the consultant to look at.
Yes.
Streetscape, water sewer infrastructure, floodplain design, parking, traffic movement, utilities,
Icicles.
Signage, lampposts, markings.
yes, everything,
Everything.
everything.
Will that come back to, will that come back to us, their report, in terms of us looking at bikeways and pedestrian ways, et cetera?
Yes,
Will that be reviewed by us?
yes, when you would bring the consultant in, that project, there would be charrettes, there would be, yes, that would be a public process. Yes, sir.
Does it come back through this commission for recommendation to the commission, or does it go directly to the commission?
Which
The
part?
report, the consultant's
The
report.
consultant's,
Final report.
The final report,
David's shaking his head, yes.
Go back to the planning commission for review, to see if you endorse it, send it on to the city.
Yeah, that would
Okay.
make sense.
Kinda.
We're just curious.
Okay. It sounds like a good idea. To make sure we have a coherent, consistent plan there that encourages beautification and the intended uses for our new district. So I think it's a good idea.
there are a lot of pieces, and it'll be a short turnaround, so it would be very helpful.
Fantastic. Any further discussion?
You got it.
No, I think it's a responsible thing to do, to bring a consultant in to look at it. I think it makes sense.
Any motions?
He did.
You got to move for approval.
Second.
Got a second. Call the roll.
Commissioner Lowe?
Yes.
Commissioner Rhodey?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper?
Yes.
Commissioner Benedict?
Yes.
Commissioner Henning?
Yes.
Commissioner Sandos?
Yes.
And Chairman Zion.
Yes. And if we have no further business, I need a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Adjourned. Thank you.
That was easy one.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I stepped on his toes. He probably never speak to me again.
He's fast. You gotta be quicker than he is.
Apparently, with some companies said that's where we wanted all this parts of our community. And to just kind of go in there and plop stuff down that doesn't